What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is, will the Cascadia earthquake be the worst disaster North America has ever seen? We did a video on this not too long ago. This is the earthquake, which hopefully will never happen, but it's on the fault line. I forgot what the fault line's called. I think it's like San Andreas, something like that. But San Andreas, I'm pretty sure, is like GTA 5, so it's not going to be that.
Okay.
It rings a bell of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That fault line on there is where potentially the earthquake could come. Very, very serious. Hopefully it won't happen anytime soon. And we checked that video out, didn't we? This is, I think, more of a bit more of a documentary, different perspective on it, a little bit more professional potentially as well. So we're checking this one out as per some requests. Smash that button if you enjoy this kind of content. Smash that subscribe button as well. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get straight into it. Will it be America's worst ever disaster, or hopefully it will never happen? Let's see.
In the Pacific Northwest, a slow-motion collision of tectonic plates along the Cascadia subduction zone has been building tension for over 320 years. And when that tension is released, the resulting earthquake is likely to be as large as a magnitude 9. That would be 45 times more powerful than California's most destructive quake in 1906, and the consequences defy imagination.
That's awful.
This megathrust earthquake is predicted to be so significant, locals simply call it the Big One. And scientists estimate that it has an alarming 37% chance of occurring within the next 50 years. In this episode, we'll learn just how this megaquake will impact our cities and find out what's being done to prepare our infrastructure and learn some invaluable lessons about how to make a plan for when the big one hits. Subduction zone earthquakes often cause sudden movement and changes on the ocean floor, triggering tsunamis large enough to completely wipe coastal communities off the map. Remember the Fukushima power plant disaster? In 2011, Japan was hit by a magnitude 9 earthquake, similar to what we're anticipating here on the West Coast, and it unleashed a tsunami of devastating proportions. Chris Goldfinger is a geologist in Oregon who studies earthquakes, and he happened to be in Japan when the quake hit. I asked him to tell me about his experience.
We went outside and just watched the buildings moving, the flagpoles whipping, and it just felt like the whole earth had turned to liquid, and yet you could feel this grinding plate underneath us. And as we watched it, though, we knew that northeast Japan wasn't expected to have anything bigger than about an 8.4. But when it hit 3 minutes and went past 3 minutes, we knew that was wrong. We were going, this is a 9. It has to be a 9. That's what it takes, 3 minutes.
Because of a long history of earthquakes, Japan was so well prepared that this megaquake destroyed a relatively small number of buildings, but they just didn't expect the size of the tsunami that followed.
It's like one thing after another, isn't it? That's awful. Oh my day. Nature's so scary. I know we say it all the time, but it's so scary.
An engineer from Oregon, visited in the aftermath.
It toppled most of their tsunami walls, inundated huge amounts of the Japan coastline. It killed 16,000 people. And we were there 6 to 8 weeks after the tsunami, going and standing there and smelling the fish smell. And you can imagine where the water went because you can see the water lines on the trees on the hills around it. You can see the pieces of people's lives strewn around. So as an Oregonian, that's really hard, knowing that that's what our coastline's gonna look like.
And while the Tohoku quake in Japan was the costliest natural disaster in the world's history, here on the West Coast of the United States, we're nowhere near as prepared as Japan was for this kind of disaster.
If that had been Cascadia and I'd been at work, my building would have collapsed. There's no question about it. I might have gotten out, I might not, but it would be gone. Everybody thought Cascadia was aseismic, meaning no earthquakes, because historically that's what it was. It was dead silent. And then the first evidence was discovered in the early to mid-'80s, and realized that we just happened to be sitting in a quiet spot.
The Cascadia subduction zone is a 600-mile fault that runs from Northern California up to British Columbia. Over the last 10,000 years, geologic records show that there have been 41 subduction quakes here, which averages out to about 1 every 250 years. The last one came in the year 1700. That's 321 years ago. Since then, tension along the subduction zone has been slowly building as the Juan de Fuca plate steadily pushes into and under the North American plate. The plate edge continues to gradually bend and buckle, and one day it'll release that tension, causing up to 5 minutes of violent shaking and triggering an immense tsunami that could reach 100 feet in some areas.
If you were looking at a bird's eye view of Portland or Seattle, very soon after shaking started, bridges and other longer infrastructure are going to be warping and falling off their foundations.
It's mental because like you've seen pictures obviously of just California and stuff like Cascadia, all fine, and it looks all fine, but you just know at some point, fingers crossed,
it's not going to be fine.
It's not going to be fine. So, but what can you do about that?
I know.
There's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Obviously, you can just be prepared as possible, but if there's nothing you can do, it's
bizarre. It's so bizarre that it just happens.
It just happens. It's devastating. And I suppose let us know what you feel if you live there, because I think on the other one, a few people just say we've heard so much about it, you just kind of ignore it because you just know it's inevitable and you just get on with life. And I guess that is the way, because you can't live constantly worried about things which you don't actually know. Cause technically, it may never actually happen. You know what I mean?
Or not in their lifetime.
In your lifetime or whatever. Hopefully, it never actually happens. You never know. Something potentially could happen. But then you must have a little bit in your back of your mind, like, but what if it did? Do you know what I mean? It must be so hard. I don't know.
I don't know if
It is mental. So let us know in the comments if you do live there or if you have previously lived there, and just your thoughts and feelings on it.
You would see unreinforced masonry buildings start to collapse. This is where 95% of Oregon and Southwest Washington's fuel is brought in and stored. These tanks will deform, they'll spill. Any type of spark or metal hitting each other could also start a fire. The Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is going to be one of the worst disasters America has ever seen.
Officials in Portland, Oregon created this animation showing what they predict one of the busiest bridges in the Northwest will look like. And it's not pretty. In the aftermath of the quake, survivors along the coastline in towns like Seaside, Oregon will have as little as 20 minutes to evacuate before the massive tsunami hits.
In a place like Seaside, what we need to do is get from here up to the hills right back there. It's a very straight path. It's not that far. It's a very doable evacuation, but there's a problem here because there's no way to get there without crossing one of these bridges.
And everything planned out.
Yeah, I guess.
Which is good, but like that must be like it must be in your back of your mind when you see that.
Yeah, I know. Is it because it did have that sign, didn't it, with the waves stuff? I guess it is. I suppose it's always been a road there to the mountains, get as high as possible. But again, if there is signs constantly around, potentially, it did look like there was a little road thing there, didn't it? If there is that, it might always be a reminder.
Yeah.
Which may be a little bit off-putting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, let us know in the comments if you do live here or whatever.
Bridges were built before plate tectonics, so we've got no retrofitting at all. If these bridges go down, we're gonna people trying to evacuate are gonna have a problem. They're gonna have to swim the river and then continue evacuating.
Yeah, you said it there, didn't it? Yeah.
To get an idea of just how risky this situation is, Chris actually flew our camera person over Seaside in his acrobatic plane.
He's booking it.
As we're flying over Seaside, you can see how low elevation the town is. The ground doesn't really rise much until you get well on the other side of the highway. Pretty much everything on the west side of Highway 101 is pretty likely to be inundated.
It's a lot of homes.
A lot of homes.
I mean, I came home from Japan feeling optimistic about it, but at the same time, I look around at the Pacific Northwest, and I can see just visually that, we are 1,000 years behind, and this is not going to be easy to catch up.
But officials in the Northwest are getting started. Portland is currently reviewing options to build a new Burnside Bridge to serve as a lifeline after the quake. And all new structures are being built up to earthquake standards. Still, the vast majority of homes in the region are not ready for earthquakes of this magnitude and aren't even bolted to their foundations. Michael Weber is a contractor specializing in retrofitting homes to make them more likely to survive an earthquake.
So this house was built in 1911. There really wasn't a building code back then. This house is sitting on the foundation through the grace of gravity. We're going to rectify that. We're going to collect those earthquake loads and get them into the foundation to prevent the house from moving off the foundation. So the vast majority
while that's good, and if you can do it, do it. I imagine the government isn't paying for that.
No, you're going to have to pay for that out of your pocket.
You've got to pay out of your pocket, and then the issue is, again, you potentially got a lot of people living in these homes who can only just afford the home, potentially, working day, and they're not going to, if you go up to them and go, here, a massive bill, we're going to make sure our home's earthquake, and they go, well, we might not live here by the time the earthquake comes.
Yeah.
You want us to pay for that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough one, but then on the other thing, if it happened tomorrow, you'd hopefully save your life. Not your life, well, hopefully save your life, definitely.
And your home.
But you save your home as well.
Yeah.
But that's a tough one. If you're struggling day to day, someone comes with a massive bill saying, on this thing which could or could not happen, I think a lot of people...
choosing no, aren't you?
I think a lot of people would, unless you've just got that spare cash. So, unless the government's going to do it, I feel like a lot of the homes aren't going to be... It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our work takes place underneath the house. So, in this case, the basement. All right, so this is a special order plywood that's designed for earthquake loads. And it's going to install like this to get those loads from this beam up here into the sill plate down here. And then we'll install this side plate and we'll continue that load path into the foundation.
Okay, if it's just side, it might not be as expensive, you know?
The most important retrofit is strengthening the connection from the walls to the floors and to the foundation. Some homes are simple to retrofit and it's possible to do it yourself, but others are very complicated, so it's worth having a professional take a look if you live in an earthquake-prone area. And there's a lot you can do without construction skills, like making sure tall furniture, heavy wall decorations, appliances, and even electronics like televisions are securely attached to the wall so they don't fall on people during a quake. Mark Ginsburg is a Portland NET, or Neighborhood Emergency Team leader, and has been preparing for the big one for over a decade.
Wow.
Despite living and breathing disaster preparedness, Mark surprisingly doesn't seem too overwhelmed by the inevitable earthquake.
It's not the thing that keeps me up at night. Because I know that I can't control it. I understand where I live and I understand that that's a possible risk. But I also know that if I do some preparedness work and if I do trainings, you know, this year I redid my first aid and AED trainings, those are the parts that I can do and that I can control. There's your house and the physical things.
Attitude.
Yeah.
There's the knowledge and there's a plan. But I think having the things that you as a family or a household need to just be independent for a little while is really crucial.
Here are Mark's top 5 most important things to keep in your home or garage when preparing for the big one.
Shelf-stable food, water,
Makes sense.
1 gallon per person per day. Good fire extinguishers, more the merrier. 2-bucket toilet. Toilet seat, clips on the bucket. Toilet paper, sawdust for your poop. 4-in-1 gas shutoff tool. Thank you. Water shutoff on the bottom, gas shutoff on top. If you turn off your gas, you leave it off and let the pros turn it back on.
Shutting off your gas can be crucial to stopping fires. If you smell gas in your home after an earthquake, Mark suggests grabbing your 4-in-1 tool and simply turning the valve to the off position. It's easy to feel discouraged or overwhelmed when thinking about preparing for a disaster as large as the big one. But I think we could all take a page out of Mark's book.
The time to figure out what to do is not after the earthquake, the flood, the fire, but to know in advance if those things happen, what should we do?
Yeah, I
You
like
don't
that.
have
Smart.
to join a local emergency team, although it's great if you do, but just taking small steps today to start your preparation, like picking up a gallon of water or a few extra cans of soup for your pantry, can go a long way.
People will want to help and will step up to help to the best of their abilities. That's what everything shows will happen and what has happened in the past. And we can expect that's what's going to happen should we need it in Portland.
And for a more detailed look on how you can prepare ahead of time for an earthquake, or for any other disaster for that matter, check out our episode on how to stock your pantry and pack a go bag. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Weathered, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you.
Like and subscribe here. We'd seriously appreciate that. But that was awesome. Like, if you did live there and you didn't have any of that, make sure you go and get that. I know potentially times are tough at the moment, stuff like that. But that's something which hopefully won't cost you a fortune. If worst case, because times are getting tough, if you needed to use it without that, you've got it there. And it does make sense. You can hop in the car potentially if you need to drive away because a tsunami's come or something like that. You've got all your supplies. You know you don't need anyone else in this world. You've got enough to survive for at least a week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's quite
good. It's a good video.
Definitely. Go and check about other video out. The link to this video will be in the description. And then you can find me, obviously, the video they said in below. Let us know your thoughts on the big one, if you're from that area or if you've moved from that area, or if you've just got general thoughts on it. Be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
And have you got anything else?
No. No, just hopefully it never happens.
Hopefully never happens. Smash the like button, guys. Smash subscribe and watch the video.
Have a fantastic day.
And we'll see you legends in the next one. Peace.